We have Kristen CB with us, who is an eighth grade science teacher, and she chose to just jump right in to the system of self motivation. So she's going to share with us what she did and how it works.
So we always do this light unit that is supposed to be self-paced for kids, but in the past we've struggled with getting them moving along and being on time with completion dates and stuff like that. So I visited Johanna like a day or two before we started, and we had already created our material that they wanted to go through and stuff. So we've got a packet where they're supposed to do this section and then take a formative and stuff like that. But it was really hard to get kids motivated to get it done and stuff. And so what I did was, first of all, created like pit stops for them. And the first pit stop, I've got this, if you can see it.
Oh, yeah, they can see it.
It's telling them what the task is that they need to complete. And then over here it says corrected answers. Did they go to the pit stop, correct their answers, and then did they come and show me where they get the signature? So to keep them on their own self-paced, I put the corrected answers up here. They've got the pit stops here on the cabinets to show where they need to be going. And you can see that like in other cases, they do have their names on Post-it notes so they can mark where they are currently at, and I can see their pace of where they are currently at besides just looking here. The other way I keep track of where they are at for pace is my own little grade sheet. So at the top I have all of the pit stops that they need to hit. And then I color code it by day and also put the date on there. I don't know if you can see that. But that also helps me keep a track of where they're at. For example, there's a kid in one of my classes that completed something on May 13th, but then he didn't come and see me until May 20th. He'd been sitting around doing nothing for an entire week. So it helped me say, hey, what have you been doing? Why haven't you seen me and stuff like that? The kids liked this better because I put incentives, or flex days is what we called them. And on those flex days, they had to be at a certain pit stop with my signature on it. And if they were there the day before, then I listed off the kids who earned that flex day. Their flex options were like making slime, marshmallow launchers, getting ahead in the next unit by creating electrical circuits of their own, building the tallest tower from marshmallows and spaghetti, and then paper towers. And that was enough for them to be motivated to motivated enough, sorry, I got students at my door, motivated enough to get ahead. They really wanted to make that slime. They wanted to make that marshmallow launchers because I also put a food incentive there, which was Little Debbie's. So that really worked for the kids at the end of the day because they're usually starving by then. So that's how I sort of jumped in and organized my stuff, and I had a pretty good success rate for implementing it so quickly.
So what would you say are some advantages you saw when you compare doing this unit without that versus now that you had all of these different systems? What were some advantages?
Some advantages I liked was, some of the pit stops require them to do formative assessments, and the formative assessments we have them take on this online web thing that can grade those formative assessments quickly. So I was able to say, hey, on this day, you're supposed to be at this formative, and so I could go and check them, and the next day I could see what we needed to go over together. Where were there holes as an entire class? Instead of before, I was having to explain things one kid at a time over and over and over again. And so when I could see as a whole as a class where they were having the same common misunderstandings after those formatives, I could get up, do a 5-minute mini lesson, and then they could go back and correct them real quick. And it showed that they had a better understanding when I went back over it with them as a whole instead of individually. I did like putting the responsibility on them, there was another thing that if they didn't get done, they were going to stay with me after semester test. So I did like them having to have the responsibility to do the learning on their own and to get those formatives done. But I felt like I got a better understanding of what they did and did not know from them hitting those pit stops with those formatives in there. So.
And what was that program or that website you used again?
It's goformative.com.
GoFormative, okay.
You can, on GoFormative, you can ask multiple choice short answers. Like I showed Johanna, you can draw on it. You can insert pictures that you choose, and then you can grade it as they're taking it, or you can wait and grade it afterwards. The one thing I like about it the most is that in the past when they've taken those formatives, they've come up with a note card, and I have to grade it right then and there. And I have to give them back verbal communication and stuff like that. On GoFormative, I can type back comments and say, hey, have you thought about this? Maybe you should consider this. And so when they went back and checked their formatives, that feedback was great for them to fix their understanding. And you can see that once they fixed it on their own, instead of me having to talk with them one-on-one all the time, they kept that communication, or they kept that understanding when they took the quiz.
What were some negatives that you found from using this system?
Negatives, I haven't really found too many, just because the kids seemed to really like it. It motivated them to get it done with those incentives and stuff like that. The only thing was maybe on flex days with the kids who got to do the incentives on those flex days, it made a mess. But on everything else, it was good. I mean, I had kids who don't always turn in their homework in on time, and 2 of them both said, I prefer learning this way, and they never got behind. They were the kids who were always ahead because this is what they wanted to do. This is their pace. They get to teach themselves. They're not sitting there listening to me all period long, bored out of their mind, and then they space off. They knew exactly what they needed to do day by day, from having that checklist, those pit stops, and exactly what did that pit stop entail and stuff.
And then lastly, what are some tips or tricks you would give someone that you figured out?
Well, definitely set what you want them to understand first and try and make them your pit stops. Decide what your stop should be, when and why you want them at that time, so that you can catch them before they get too far along. One thing I wish I had built in or had time for was for a catch-all day, so that on that catch-all day we could have retaken formatives that kids needed to retake, because the last pit stop for a formative was the day before the quiz, and I wish we had a little bit of a cushion area to cover some of those things from the last formative before we took the quiz.
All right. Thank you so much, CB.
You're welcome.